Earlier this year, we watched my all-time favorite wrestling match, which took place 25 years ago in 1996. Now, it just so happens that two other of my all-time favorite matches also took place in 1996. One in April that year, one in June. Since we're in May, I thought we'd split the difference and go ahead and watch them both. Would y'all like to watch them with me?
Yeah.
Sure.
And let's get the conversation started. Hello and welcome to LexiCon. It is Maddie along with
Lexi.
Dylan.
And as I say today, we're going to be doing some more of our patented commentary, watching a couple things that we had nothing to do with. I just watched them as a fan, and these two weren't even born when they occurred.
Fact. But 96 seems like it was a nice wrestling year for you.
96 was a real sweet spot for me as a wrestling fan. It was dead center in the middle of the 90s, which anybody who's listened to this podcast before probably knows was my all-time favorite wrestling decade. Which is not to say that I didn't care for things that came before that or have come since, but I was a hardcore 90s fan, and that's always going to be my favorite place to return to when it comes to wrestling.
Nice. I don't have any opinions on the decades of wrestling.
96 was also kind of a transitional period for me as a fan, much like it was for the two major U.S. wrestling companies at the time. But for me, I had gone from being sort of a wide-eyed fan who could very easily suspend their disbelief, and I would soon become a very hardcore fan who made sure to watch as much as possible and was just as concerned with what was going on behind the scenes and outside of the ring as I was with what was going on in the ring. But in 96, I was sort of in between those, or a combination thereof.
Nice.
And I think I could pretty honestly say 96 was pretty much the last time when I could really just enjoy professional wrestling for simply what it was, or at least what it was pretending to be.
Yeah.
As I say, the major U.S. wrestling companies, WCW and the WWF, were also sort of in transitional periods too. Not quite what they had been, but not what they would become shortly either. We'll talk about WCW a little more as we get on with the show, because the second match we're going to watch is from WCW, but we're going to start with another WWF match. I know it's WWE now, but it was WWF at the time, so I'm going to call it WWF. And WWF is just a better name anyway.
Wee.
Well.
Wee.
But for the WWF, they had their major success after Vince McMahon bought the company from his dad, with the rock and wrestling era in the 80s built largely on the back of Hulk Hogan. And then in the early 90s, the business had started to go down. Hogan would leave the company in the wake of the so-called steroid scandal when Vince McMahon himself was charged with trafficking steroids. He was acquitted, but it was a major drain on the company having to go through the trial and the image that they would take.
This is not a story I've heard.
Yeah,
have I?
It's not something we've necessarily took, because I mean, it certainly had an effect on what you saw on TV.
Yeah.
But it was certainly much more of a behind-the-scenes story. So I mean, somebody like me who's all in on, all the facets of professional wrestling and the whole storied history is gonna, dive into it. But if you're just into what's going on screen, it definitely played a part in what you saw, but not very subtly,
Yeah.
As an example, of course, the WWF is in the middle of this new generation period at this match we're going to watch in 1996, where they had gone from, of course, Hogan had left the company, Randy Savage, another one of the big stars, left the company, and so they were promoting their new hot younger stars. But there was also a subtle shift in the type of wrestlers they had, where you had the big muscle-bound guys like Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. They were shifting to smaller champions like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and even guys like Kevin Nash, who played Diesel at the time, who was a big guy, but he wasn't so overly muscular that you said, oh, there's a steroid freak,
Yeah.
So there was that subtle shift there, but it was also a shift because, like I say, wrestlers had left and they had to bring in and make new stars. And a lot of people criticized the creative for WWF in the mid-90s, like 96, and especially 95. And I know 95 was a really bad year for them financially. And I'm not going to say all the creative was great, but by and large, I really enjoyed the WWF at the time. Hulk Hogan had landed in WCW, and WCW was just a real retread of WWF in the 80s. Riding on the backs of guys like Hulk Hogan and Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Earthquake and Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Macho Man Randy Savage, all of which, except for maybe the last of those, were really well past their prime and couldn't put on good, credible wrestling matches. And I just didn't really like what they had to present. And, also longtime favorites like Sting and especially Ric Flair were being diminished in the company.
Yeah.
So even though I started out more of a WCW fan, I had gravitated to being more of a WWF fan. And even though, like I said, they still had over-the-top characters, but somewhat less so. They were starting to have a little more realistic presentation. Like even Kevin Nash's Diesel. Diesel was obviously a character, the big bad trucker guy.
Yeah.
But it was less of a character than he'd been in WCW when he was Vinny Vegas or Oz. And so it was a little more realistic presentation. Then you had guys like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, who Shawn Michaels isn't technically his real name. His real name is Michael Shawn Hickenbottom. But, I mean,
Just we bust a couple names.
But the idea of Shawn Michaels, that's not a real gimmicky name. Even it's not even as gimmicky as like Hulk Hogan or the Macho Man or Sting. It's a straightforward name. And of course, Bret Hart is just Bret Hart. I mean, he had the Hitman nickname, but. And in the ring, most of these guys were pretty credible workers. I mean, Bret and Shawn are two of the best of their generation, or certainly two of the best of all time. And you had supporting characters like Jeff Jarrett and Scott Hall, who was raised Ramon at the time, who could certainly carry their end of the ring. And Bret's younger brother Owen Hart was there, who was another great worker. And Yokozuna, even for a big man, he could still work.
Nice.
And, even Kevin Nash, who nobody's going to accuse of being a great worker, he could be carried to a credible match if he's in there with somebody like Bret or Shawn or Jarrett, somebody who can work with them. Bret's brother-in-law David Boy Smith was there. Undertaker was still there, and of course later at this point in '96, the match we're going to watch, Steve Austin had already debuted for the WWF. Mankind had just debuted right after WrestleMania, who is Mick Foley, of course. Had been Cactus Jack. Vader debuted in '96, another great in-ring worker. So I really liked the crew they had in the WWF in '95, '96.
At some point in time, I just want to know. I just want to see how many wrestlers you could list off in one go.
Okay.
Like, you just went down such a long list.
Hardly.
I mean, I know it's just a small fraction of them. It's just like, wow.
But getting back to the state of the business in '95, '96, it was still the kayfabe era where hey, we're going to present it as what you're seeing is supposed to be real, and we're not going to break character anywhere, but you're starting to see little glimpses of, you'd see, the behind the scenes and the wrestlers out of character just a little bit. Like, for instance, the Slammy Awards were brought back in '96 for WrestleMania weekend, and I really enjoyed them because I like a good award show in the first place, and I thought this was a very entertaining presentation. Todd Pettengill did a really great song medley at the beginning, kind of like Billy Crystal used to do with the Oscars, where he sang about the different wrestlers, and, it was an award show.
Yeah.
You've seen the Oscars and things, the award wrestlers would come up and they'd do a little bit, and they'd kick with the nominees, then the person would win and they would do their speech. And for the most part, everybody was still in character. And in fact, Vince McMahon and Jerry Lawler did commentary on it.
Uh-huh.
So it's definitely not a straightforward award show because you've got commentators during it, but you got to see just little glimpses of the wrestlers
fun, though.
Breaking character. Not so much that it was jarring in the middle of an actual presentation of the product, but just enough that you got to see, okay, I know there's a little something different going on behind the character there, and I really appreciated that. I don't want it to be so much that it ruins the illusion, but I just like to know it's there. And as we got more into the 90s and the NWO era and the Attitude era and the WWF, we would start to see even more and more behind the scenes and sort of breaking kayfabe and shoot-style promos and interviews and segments, and I did enjoy all that at the time. I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying it was a real sweet spot for me, kind of going from where we had been to where we were going to be, and just 95 and 96 just sort of hit the right spot for me.
Nice.
I'm not going to go out 100% and say this is my absolute favorite wrestling era, but it's definitely up there. I mean, it's hard to beat the Attitude Era, and sitting on the couch with my dad and having two TVs on and, going back and forth, focusing on one show or the other.
Nice.
And of course, the early 90s, when I got into wrestling, I know it wasn't always the best product, but it still means something to me nostalgically.
Yeah.
But again, we're just landing sort of right in the middle of that, so it's a really nice place to be. But with all that, of course, we saw Shawn Michaels win his first ever world championship for Bret Hart at WrestleMania in '96.
Yes.
My all-time favorite WrestleMania, my all-time favorite match, two of my all-time favorite wrestlers. And that's going to transition into the pay-per-view we're watching now. We're just going to watch a match on it. It's the WWF In Your House. And In Your House was the 2-hour-long pay-per-views. They would run on months. They didn't have a 3-hour-long pay-per-view.
Interesting.
So you didn't see quite as many matches, but it was also like $10 cheaper.
Reasonable.
And they start, maybe at the beginning, I remember the first one was just like In Your House 1, In Your House 2, but eventually they started giving them a subtitle to differentiate them, and this one is In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies. Because the main event featured Shawn Michaels' first pay-per-view defense. I'm sure he was defending on house shows, and he may have defended it on Raw as well. But his first defense of his World Wrestling Federation Championship against his on-screen former best friend Diesel, a.k.a. Kevin Nash. Of course, behind the scenes, they were still good friends, and as far as I know, still are to this day. Nash had actually come into the WWF at Shawn's behest to be his bodyguard when Shawn Michaels was the heel Intercontinental Champion in late 1994.
Interesting.
And then Diesel had made more and more inroads as an in-ring performer to the point that he was actually the babyface WWF champion for almost a year, from November 94 to November 95.
Nice.
And after he and Shawn had a match for the world title at WrestleMania in '95, Shawn turned babyface, and they had a run together as like best friend babyfaces. Even won the tag team titles. They won the tag team titles as heels, and they won them again as babyfaces.
That sounds fun.
But then toward the end of the year, when Diesel lost the world championship back to Bret Hart, he would turn heel and set up his last little run in the WWF before he went to WCW and sort of kicked off the NWO era there. And this was his last major match in the company for a long time, wrestling Michaels in the main event of In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies.
Nice.
This period right here, though, from the Slammies WrestleMania weekend into WrestleMania 12 into In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies next month is, again, one of my favorite times in wrestling. I really liked what they were presenting to me here, and I just was eating it up. In fact, I had these 3 events on a VHS tape down in the basement. It's because most VHS tapes, if you run them on the slowest speed, so you get the most, well, I guess it's the fastest speed, but you get the most time out of it. Because you can run
how VHS tapes work.
If you're recording on a standard VHS tape, you record an SP, you get 2 hours out of it. You record an I want to say SLP. The middle one is 4 hours, and then at EP or SLP, whatever the longest designation is, you get 6 hours out of it. But there's some extended play VHS that would have 8 hours on the longest one, so I had one of those, and I recorded the Slammies, then WrestleMania 12, because back then pay-per-views were under 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was like 2 hours and 45 minutes, 2 hours and 50. They weren't the 10-hour extravaganzas they are now. And then I had the In Your House, Good Friends, Better Enemies on the end of it. Still have it downstairs. It's not in great shape. Last time I tried to play it, there were some lines and whatnot, but
that can
I
happen.
loved watching that tape because that to me that's peak era. Like I say, I can't say enough. I loved wrestling, especially WWF wrestling in '95 and especially in '96 when Shawn took the belt. And I loved Bret too. Don't get me wrong, but I was just all in for Shawn's first run as champion and presumably a nice long run with really good in-ring defenses.
Yeah, early storyline, it does sound like a really fun time. But Shawn Michaels, that's the one with the jacket I liked, right?
Probably. I've always liked Shawn, especially his early, when he first went singles, and he had the zebra stripe patches that would eventually become the Broken Hearts, and it was like the white pleather looking gear, and sometimes he had a vest, sometimes he had a full jacket, but it had like the red and black accents. And it would get more innate, and he'd add mirrors and different stuff, and I still liked it, but I love that original Shawn Michaels solo ring gear.
Nice.
Anyway, I think I've rambled on enough. Let's get into it. I should really quickly say, the WWF at the time was... Did I mention they were in a bit of a transitional period?
A little bit.
Okay, so I guess I pretty much... I guess we've got every setup we need, so let's go on into it here.
Yeah.
We're going to be watching this on the Peacock.
Yes.
Whose UI is just terrible. I'm sorry. It might be alright for regular shows, but it's nowhere near as good as the WWF Network, or the WWE Network's interface was.
I've never used Peacock personally.
But this is also on the Shawn Michaels from the Vault DVD, which I have, and of course if you have a DVD of the pay-per-view or a VHS copy like I had, you'll be able to line up with us. We'll do our best to get you there. On Peacock, you have to go to the WWE section, then pay-per-view specials, In Your House, Season 2,
yes.
For what that's worth. Episode 2, it's down near the bottom. Good Friends, Better Enemies, and we've skipped up to 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 50 seconds, right after the last advertisement. If you're not watching on the, I think Premium is the one without ads, but I've got the middle tier, the $4.99 tier for now. But we're gonna upgrade. We got a deal, and as soon as that's up, we're gonna upgrade. But right after the last commercial break, 1 hour, 18 minutes, 50 seconds. We're at black now because I think they just faded out for a commercial. But basically, we had just seen an interview with Diesel earlier in the day, and then come back to ringside, and JR had sort of kicked it back to Vince. So hopefully you can line up with us. We'll give you a countdown if you're watching along with us. I'll try to give you another cue. I think there's a Shawn backstage segment, so maybe when he starts coming to the ring, we'll find a place to give you a cue. But for anybody watching along with us, we're going to count down 3, 2, 1, play, and then we're going to get started. And you guys have never seen this match before that you know of, right?
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it.
All right, so I'll stop talking now. Just silence. No, seriously. All right, countdown. Everything else I have to say, I'll say during the match. So for everybody watching along with us, here's your countdown. We're going to play when I say play. 3, 2, 1, play.
Oh yeah.
All right,
Here we go.
in the crowd, and there's the famous In Your... That's the set they use for like all the In Your House until they stop being In Your Houses.
Oh, look at
Interesting.
the house.
That little house set.
It's cute.
It's a real house.
And
Totally.
Diesel as the challenger is going to be making his way out first. Traditionally, the challenger always comes out first. Not 100% of the time. Occasionally, he'll have the champion come out first.
Nice.
But tradition dictates the challenger will come out first.
I like the graphic design of the in your house thing.
Do you? How do you
Yeah.
like the old WWF logo in the corner?
It's nice.
That predates the scratch logo, which would have sort of morphed into the WWE scratch logo when they would just cut off the two lines for the F, and of course it's become the more streamlined, whatever they call it now.
Nice.
It dominates their world championship belts and makes them look horrendous, like just big advertising slogans, which I guess they are, but or advertising logo. I mean, it's just the WWF logo. There's nothing else to it. I hate those belts. The belt Shawn's gonna be wearing here, the Winged Eagle, is my second all-time favorite championship belt, and my favorite is the ECW TV title, which was just a rip-off of that belt. It had the same basic Winged Eagle center plate, but it wasn't as shiny, and on the sides it had round plates, and I really like round medallions on the side of my belt.
Nice.
How you like the leather look for Diesel there?
Pretty nice in my opinion.
That's neat.
Nothing wrong with a bit of leather.
Kevin Nash, of course, started out as Blaster Master Steel, or Master Blaster Steel in WCW, soon to become Oz,
That's definitely.
then Vinny Vegas, and now Diesel
Nice.
in the WWF. This is April '96. In May or June of '96, he would show up in WCW, and of course, if you were reading the newsletters at the time, or really that hardcore fan who paid attention to all the business side of it, you knew that he was leaving, but I wasn't paying that much attention to what was going on outside the ring, so I was definitely shocked when I saw him show up on WCW Monday Nitro.
Reasonable.
Following Scott Hall, aka Razor Ramon, who showed up either the week before or 2 weeks before that.
Nice.
And that sort of that kicked off the WWF's winning streak, or I'm sorry, WCW's winning streak in the Monday Night Wars, where they would win in the ratings battle. They see Vince McMahon holding the vest.
Interesting.
Diesel threw out him kind of a little shoot deal, like "fuck you, McMahon."
It's my vest now. I'm keeping it.
And of course, McMahon, the owner of the World Wrestling Federation, but that wasn't widely acknowledged on television at the time either. So that's that's one of those little things, those little subtle shoot things I'm talking about, where people who know like, oh, he's leaving, he's throwing that at McMahon, he's got some issues with him.
Yeah.
And that's Mad Dog Vachon, famous old-time wrestler who's going to come into play later in the match.
Interesting.
They're not showing him for no reason there. Like, it's not uncommon if they have, legends in the crowd, they'll show them, but he's actually going to figure in what is probably... Or no, I'm sorry, that's the Butcher Vachon. Mad Dog's his brother.
Ah. I like that vest.
My apologies. Do you? Yeah, that was sort of the evolution of Shawn's gear. I like it. I like it.
Shoulder massage.
That's Jose Lothario, another legendary wrestler who trained Shawn Michaels, and during this period he was his manager, his ringside manager, which got to be a little hokey. Like, Shawn didn't really need a manager at ringside. It was fine. He was there at WrestleMania and stuff, but I felt like at some point he didn't really need him. It wasn't the era for the baby face with his trainer at ringside.
Yeah.
Like nowadays you see a little more of that, and somebody's throwing popcorn or ice or something at Shawn.
Lol.
The word was always that the kids and the girls liked Shawn, but maybe the guys didn't like him as much. Sort of like John Cena's crowds in more recent years. But I always liked Shawn, babyface or heel.
Yeah.
Didn't always like some of the things I heard he did outside the ring.
Yeah.
And here we go, getting started. This is a no-holds-barred match. Did I mention that?
Yes.
I can't remember if I did or not. But
I don't know.
No-holds-barred is basically an anything goes. In some promotion we call it a street fight. It's similar to what is called a hardcore match nowadays, but most hardcore matches are pinfalls count anywhere matches, and this isn't. The pinfall or deciding submission has to take place inside the ring, but pretty much weapons are allowed. People can interfere with no consequence. You can brawl outside as long as you want to. The match just has to finish in the ring.
Nice. As long as you're in the ring at the end.
Shawn hasn't even gotten his chaps off yet.
What was that fall?
I don't know. He's 7 feet tall. You don't always fall gracefully. And Kevin Nash had a lot of knee problems and leg injuries throughout his career.
It just looked like he fell over the top, and it went well, and then maybe he was trying to get up or something, and then just kind of stumbled back down.
Or he could have just been selling.
Do a backflip on him.
He's going to. It's a moonsault.
Sweet.
And that was a pretty big move, especially in the U.S. at the time. You didn't see that a lot. You're starting to see a heightened bit of in-ring action. You're starting to see more of the influence of like ECW. With over-the-top athletic maneuvers like that, but also the brawling. Now, Shawn, I think he just took Jerry Lawler's cowboy boot off.
It's one
of the Spanish announcers.
It's probably fairly hard to him.
I just feel as though if any of those wires were hooked up to anything, they're not anymore.
Maybe. I'm sure there's good length on the cables.
I don't think I ever hooked up to anything.
Right.
But speaking of the influence of ECW, we're going to see a big table spot in this match, which of course now with the Spanish announce table, it's very common to see wrestlers using tables as a weapon. But in '96, especially in the two mainstream promotions in the U.S., WWF and WCW, you didn't see that very often. It's not that it never happened. I mean, Harley Race pile drove Hulk Hogan on a table on Saturday Night's Main Event. Terry Funk did the same to Ric Flair, but those both predated my time in wrestling. I only know about them in retrospect. And I'd actually seen a table used live. The first house show I ever went to, Nikita Koloff and Sting in the main event. Koloff had propped the table up long ways where it was standing up, and he tried to Irish whip Sting into it, and Sting reversed it and threw Koloff into it, and then they brawled out through the crowd, and the whole match lasted like a minute and a half, and it was a real disappointment. But you didn't see wrestlers crashing through tables constantly like you do now. So the table's going to get involved in this match, and that was kind of a big deal at the time.
And look at those little guard fences. They look really nice.
You like the sort of bicycle fence more than the black barricades they use nowadays.
Yeah,
that was standard for the time.
Nice.
Both companies would use those, and that's what I kind of grew up on. But then WWF switched to the black barricades during the Attitude Era to sort of set themselves off.
Nice. He was looking at the fences. Personally, I was paying attention to how nicely Diesel just climbed off the ring. Like, he just stepped off of it.
He is very tall.
He's tall.
Facts.
He's probably like 6'10" in real life. 6'10". He's billed as being 7 feet, but I don't think he's necessarily quite legitimately 7 feet. Don't go looking it up because you're not necessarily going to find legit information anyway. There's too much kayfabe out there. I know. I've heard him personally say he's like 6'10", 6'11". So I'll take his word over anybody else's.
I mean, that's pretty much 7 feet.
Look,
Pretty much.
it's the Rainmaker.
I mean, once you do all the math, it's 7 feet.
Yeah, and I mean, depending on his boots too, he might have some lifts in there. Just the design of them may give him an extra inch or so. But I was starting to say about the tables too. I'm even showing a little bit of my ignorance here because in that match I mentioned between Diesel and Bret Hart in November of '95, they did a table spot where Bret was on the ring apron and Diesel charged into him and bumped him back into the announce table, and he broke through the announce table. But I didn't get that pay-per-view, and I wasn't. It wasn't like Attitude Era where I was watching the show every week, so I'd missed some stuff here and there. I knew that Bret had won the title back, but I didn't necessarily know the specifics of it. So when the table comes into play in this match, it was really a revelation to me. It's not like I'd never seen the table used, and I'm not saying I wasn't aware of that at all, but I'm just saying it was still a rare occurrence. And this one is just particularly breathtaking to me and really well done, and it was just like, whoa!
Nice.
But I have to be honest, that even though that's probably the best spot of the match, it's not the most memorable one. But we'll get into that in a little while, and I want to see y'all's reaction to it.
Yeah, I like how Shawn just, like, bounced off the corner a minute ago.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about a great worker like Shawn. It's not necessarily that he does all these fancy moves, and he can do plenty of moves, but it's just everything he does well. He sells well, he moves well, the transitions are smooth. It's the little things that you do that really make a match great and make it for a great worker that you just don't even realize.
I always like when wrestlers
to it.
bounce after a move.
Yeah.
I mean, you can overdo it too, and Shawn's guilty of it sometimes. And somebody like Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig, who was a really great wrestler, sometimes he would oversell things. And like Rock, when he would sell Steve Austin Stunner, he would oversell it. It happens sometimes.
He's a sister, and it looked like that was just nothing. Like they.
Yeah. Well, he's being the big bully. That's the role he's playing. And like I say, nobody's ever going to accuse Kevin Nash of being a great worker, but he could be one half of a very good match if he had the right partner. And it's not that he was completely incapable. And like I say, he had some physical limitations. He had injuries, like he was a basketball player, and he transitioned from that into wrestling because he had leg problems. And throughout wrestling, he had injuries that wouldn't allow him to. And yeah, choking out Earl Hebner. I know you're going to screw Brett in a couple years. Not that Kevin and Brett are necessarily good friends, but
A minute ago,
but they might be better enemies.
Lol.
I beat up the.
They were looking at the announcer.
He's gonna steal his belt to whip Shawn with it.
I was waiting for him to whip Shawn with something.
Well, I think
No, my belt. No, my pants will fall down.
you were waiting for him to whip Shawn.
Well, when he did the other thing before he was
You thought he was going to whip
choking
him
the thing.
with electrical tape?
Have you ever
used electrical tape for anything?
No. I don't think it would look very well, but you know, they can make it look like it looked well.
The Shawn bounces like 50 feet.
But no, a minute ago they were looking at the announcers and whatnot, and I was just gonna ask, what is that one wearing?
Who, Jerry Lawler?
I guess.
He's wearing his kingly livery.
I thought he has a crown.
Yeah. He's the king of Memphis.
Nice.
How there those?
Rumor has it that when he first came to WWF, there was enough wrestlers that weren't fond of him from his days as the promoter of Memphis that they got together and took a shit in his crown.
Nice.
Huh.
But I wasn't there, so I can't confirm that. Now he's going to hang Shawn with the belt, or attempt to.
Nice.
Huh.
And Baby Earl there saying, you get off him, but I mean, it's no holds barred. He can't really do anything about it.
Facts. He's like tie the belt.
Yeah.
Nice.
My girl,
I don't know what else he would have done, but
Yeah, fun. That's all. I'm leaving.
For a chair, maybe.
I'm going home.
Poor
always.
This is my chair now.
Lol.
I can't tell if that chair is more bronze
All
or
of these
gold.
chairs are his.
No, they're like a grayish color.
They do look more of a brownish gray color.
Pretty standard folding chair color.
Still looks nice.
Nice. Murphy sitting there, helping with the belt.
Yeah, you almost wonder if that's overstepping his bounds in a
Right?
hard match.
I'm sitting here like, are you trying to get in on this match?
It's no holds barred.
He's just trying to get his belt back.
It's no holds barred.
Pants are gonna fall down. I gotta get my belt back.
Yeah. I do like the blue.
In Shawn's pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, the black and turquoise looks nice.
Yeah.
Okay, theoretically, one wrestler could bring like 5 other wrestlers with them. It's no
Yep.
holds barred.
No, you're absolutely right. To me, that doesn't completely make sense. Even if you're gonna have like a no holds barred match, outside interference should still cause a disqualification. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you're not
I
involved
always
in the
hate
match,
outside interference.
you shouldn't be able to be in it. But I mean,
matches.
of course, wrestling's gonna play fast and loose with the rules, whatever suits their purpose at the time. I get that, but if I were gonna promote wrestling and try to give it a little more of a realistic presentation, a little more of a sports-like feel,
Ooh.
the bounce back spot, I would, like I said, you can have a no DQ
Bouncing
match,
back.
but there's still some things you can't do, and outside interference to me should end the match
Yeah.
or cause to be thrown out.
How many wrestlers can fit in a ring at once?
A lot.
I mean,
I mean, how many wrestlers can wrestle? How many wrestlers can
I
fit?
know there's been like
Oh, mix.
30-man battle royals. I think a low blow is coming. Yep.
Of course. The chair opened. If we could have
Oh,
just
can't get it
stood
closed.
that up, sat for a
down
second. Yeah. And then once they start moving, get up, move the chair.
Am I the only one here that does not like matches that end with outside interference? At least for the most part.
For the most part,
It-
yeah. But I mean, sometimes
depends.
it works within the storyline.
Like, oh yeah, an epic battle.
I accept it to
Who's
a
going?
degree.
Oh, they got power bombed by someone on the outside and they lost.
Yeah, if it's just like a lot of things. If it's overdone, you get tired of it. But once in a while, it works well.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a good way for heels to get heat too, is to have their buddies interfere, and it
Facts.
protects the babyface to a degree to lose because of outside interference. But even that, you don't want to do too much because then it waters everything down. Look, he couldn't even kick him over.
No.
It took
It's like with outside
Yeah.
interference.
I always
if
say nobody's going to accuse him of being a great worker.
with outside interference, neither a true win or a true loss for them. Cause it's not like it's like yeah, neither
Hey,
one.
Dylan,
won.
I just got to tell you, it's not really a win or a loss.
I mean, yeah, I know,
they're working together.
but for
It's just a performance.
the storyline, it's not really. It's like no one won that match really.
I mean, except the guy who did.
Facts.
I mean, on technicality, but it's like no one because of outside interference.
That looks quite uncomfortable.
I mean, my one with that, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So,
How
kicking his
long?
leg, getting the crowd behind him. You can see him. They're probably clapping along. Somebody just threw something in the ring.
I
Multiple
noticed.
things. Oh, a little glitch in the video feed there.
It's a glitch in the Matrix.
Lol.
Neo suddenly steps out. I never seen the Matrix.
Me neither.
I know there's an anime movie,
Nice.
The Animatrix.
Nice.
Sean just won't stay down.
Nope. Gotta keep getting back up.
And now
And
it's
over
I think he's gonna.
things.
Spoilers. I think he's gonna go for the fire extinguisher here.
You are filled
I don't know what
with
that is.
determination.
You don't know what a fire extinguisher is?
Wait. I'm.
No, literally a fire
Yeah,
extinguisher.
yeah,
He's not
yeah.
gonna ring blood.
Yeah.
Extinguisher. It's not
I
a wrestling
blanked.
move.
I blanked. I'm sitting here just
Remember, no holds
watching things like
barred.
what's happening.
And even though technically no holds barred should mean you can use any wrestling hold if it was illegal, it shouldn't mean you should be able to use weapons. That should be a different kind of match.
Yeah.
Might not be getting it yet. Oh, this might be the table spot.
No weapons barred.
Yeah, I think this is where he's going to powerbomb. And this is just a thing of beauty. And remember, at a time when you don't see wrestlers go through tables very often, this was a big deal.
Nice.
And I mean, boom, the monitors come down
Oof.
on him. McMahon goes down in a heat.
That
That's
looks
just
painful.
that's a beautiful spot right there.
That was my table.
I like the lighting.
And like I
Lighting
say,
looks so
when
nice.
you don't see that in every show or every other show,
Picks
that's
up
a
the
big
monitor.
deal. That is the move. Even with the way the match ends, that's the move that always stuck out to me in this match. I couldn't wait to show my friend Pete the next day. Like, you got to see this match, and you got to see this powerbomb through the table. I had to show him the silliness at the end too. Of course, I guess we watched the whole match, but
Nice.
I love that powerbomb spot. And then Diesel being a dick, like, strap it on, Ruff. I've already won. It's over. Of course, if Shawn gets counted out, I guess there is no count out since it's no holds barred though.
True.
Titles don't change hands on a count or disqualification, which is also
That
kind of
table
silly.
just
But
perfectly snapped.
it could have been gimmicked.
Possibly. Yikes.
It's a
I'm
gift,
caught up
boy.
in the cloth and
I
whatnot.
think I've said this before, but I always like Shawn's tattoo with the S around the heart with the dagger through it.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, he's pulling down the
I'd have gotten a
inside.
similar tattoo, but S didn't really mean anything to me until, recently when I got married and your mother and I put our names together. Here's the fire extinguisher.
Yes.
I'm gonna hit you with the fire extinguisher. Fire extinguisher is
You know-
probably a very good weapon. You can like spray people with it,
Uh-huh.
like, hit
Like
them
he
with
just
it.
did. But then he abandons it.
He could
Very
have
much
hit
so.
as well.
Hardly used it.
Okay, fire extinguishers are pretty heavy, probably.
Oh,
The
yeah, I
metal.
know.
Oh,
Just not what he's just going in for some punches.
Definitely better than a punch.
That seems like a Shawn Michaels thing.
But again, you don't want to overdo it.
That was
Flying
a cool,
forearm.
That was a cool.
His movements,
Terry
like
Taylor called his the five
way,
arm.
the way he like comes off of ropes and whatnot,
Oh,
his punches,
He's one of the greatest.
and him laying face down. Those are the three things I'm associating with Shawn Michaels
I
now.
mean, look, for whatever his issues outside of the ring, and they were plentiful. Oh, watch out! He's got the mic pack attached to it.
You see? Just unhook that real quick.
Nope, still didn't get it all the way.
He's like hitting himself or tangling himself up a little bit with it.
But in the ring, there are few people ever better than Shawn Michaels.
What if you just grabbed the bell and left the building? You'll never catch me.
I mean,
I
you
think that's
wouldn't be
theft.
the champion. You'd have physical possession of the belt, but that's not enough to make you champion. Oh, look at that spot. That's just majestic, man.
Nice.
Double feature. Trying to watch both clips at the same time.
That was an innovation for the WWF at the time, that double feature where you got the replay while watching live action.
Uh-huh.
That was a big deal for them at the time. Big
Nice.
boot.
Oof.
Oof.
Again, just the way he does the movement.
Yeah, the way he sells, the way he's
It's
really,
very
really
nice.
good. He's really, really good at what he does.
It's very, very nice.
I put my arm into
That's the
this
reason he's
thing.
on the short list of the greatest of all time.
I'm pointing to
Nice.
something. Don't know what,
Everything.
but something.
Going for grabbing him by the hair.
Set him up for the power bomb, or the jackknife, as Diesel called it.
Nice.
Nope,
Look.
Shawn fights out of it.
Nice.
Still going at it.
Yep.
Stomp.
Ooh. That had.
That had.
I said had to hurt.
You did not. You said that had.
No,
I
you
said
you
to
just-
hurt.
No, you just said that had.
You just thought,
just forgot about
flying elbow
accents.
drop shades of Randy Savage. Now he's firing up. Babyface comeback, baby.
Oh yeah.
Nice hair.
I never did like the way he set
Stomp.
up Sweet Chin music, though, with the stomp in the corner. Every now and then it works, but it seems like he's telegraphing the move to me.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, I've heard people, try to kayfabe, and you're just disoriented. You don't know what's going on. You hear the stomping, but you don't know where it's coming from. And
Uh-huh.
so I get it.
Well, you
whatever.
could use your ears to know where it's coming from.
Lariat, kind of a discus clothesline, shades of Cactus Jack and Diamond Dallas Page.
The referee, he just had some expression.
Look, they've lost their
going
headsets.
on there.
They just have
Yeah.
hand mics now.
But the way he was just looking down at them, like, yep, this is what's going on.
I think this match probably got, I want to say it got like 4.5 stars from the Torch, and maybe the same thing from the Wrestling Observer. That's about right to put it to, right at 4.5 stars. It's a great match.
Nice.
Not necessarily the all-time greatest, but it's.
Yeah.
I might even
It's
go
up
up.
there.
I might even go up to 4 3/4. It's a damn good match, and I mean you can see a little bit of that, but we're making fun here and whatnot. And without the crowd and the commentary, it loses a little bit.
Again.
You need that to get the full experience, and it also helps to see it. Like, it's fun to go back and watch these matches and you can appreciate them, but to see them live, to not know what the outcome is, to be there in the moment, know the storylines building up to it, and be a part of that, that matters too in the enjoyment of the match.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a difference.
Oof.
Oof. Pain.
Onto the fencing.
Yep.
To hide under the ring with a
Thanks
fire
to just park their
extinguisher.
bicycles against it.
Just
As soon as
lifts it
they
up.
peek out, shh, bonk.
Yep. They'll never know what happened.
The perfect plan.
Yep.
Big Daddy Cool. Here we go. This is this is what everybody remembers from this match.
Whoa,
Besides
whoa,
it
I
being a
was
great
just chilling
match.
watching the match.
Right.
I thought Maurice was Mad Dog. It's Maurice for Shawn. I don't know if he's the Butcher or if he's Mad Dog, but
He's one of them.
he has a prosthetic leg, is the point, and Diesel just took it off.
Yeah.
Why he take his leg? He wasn't watching the match. Why he take his leg?
Because wrestling.
I don't even think that leg is even that effective as a weapon.
Probably
A chair's
not.
probably more effective.
Possibly.
Okay, Maurice is Mad Dog.
Okay.
So he is Mad Dog, and the Butcher is his brother.
Okay.
But he wasn't.
Did he even get to use it? Just
No,
there?
Shawn stopped him.
Okay, that's what it looked like.
He's gonna toss the leg back.
He is. He's gonna tap his boot off with it and then chuck it back.
Nice.
Or maybe he does clock him with it and then hits the kick.
So he yeets it at
Yeah,
him.
okay, I guess he does use it.
Okay.
But I guess he's gonna finish it off with a super kick. I know that's not the finish.
Nice. That's finally getting
There's your leg
him.
back.
And of course he was all in on it.
Yeah.
I think Pat Patterson got credit for the idea. Pat Patterson is one of the big finish guys for the WWF. Longtime
Stop.
booker and match agent. And before that, former great wrestler.
It's like a
first
punch,
Intercontinental
I think.
champion. Super kick. There's the cover. It's 1, 2, 3, and that's all she wrote.
Nice.
Shawn Michaels retains the WWF Championship in an outstanding match. It was a great year in the ring for Shawn in '96.
Very
There was just a
energetic.
series of amazing matches.
Shawn Michaels is just a ball of energy.
This is it's like bald bull or something when he like does the thing and then he charges
Uh-huh.
and punch out.
And there's one of the all-time best-looking championship belts.
That
Look
is
at that. Isn't that beautiful? The
I
Winged
didn't
Eagle.
get a good look at it.
Well, they've shown it like 4 times.
Fact.
Okay, if you haven't gotten a good look at it.
The person walking.
He just gave a little Hulk Hogan pose there.
Nice.
That was that sort of front bicep he did there. That's
I wasn't really looking at him. I was looking
Yeah,
at
do you see
the person
those
walking
graphics
by.
effects?
The cotton
It's not
candy or
perfect.
whatever.
They didn't put the graphics effects perfect.
It's okay.
there you go. There's the belt. Look at
Nice.
that. Isn't that beautiful?
That's a very shiny.
Very
gold.
synonymous with Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart too.
Nice.
In your house. Well,
I mean, of course, it was held by more wrestlers. I mean,
Just a wrestler bust down.
Hulk
the
held
door.
it first, then Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, Sergeant Slaughter, Hulk, The Undertaker briefly, Ric Flair, back to Savage, Bret Hart. I'm sorry. I was trying to think of everybody who held the belt.
I'm still just waiting for that list that you name.
So he would drop it back to Hogan, who would drop, or he would drop it to Yokozuna, who would drop it to Hogan, who would drop it back to Yokozuna, who would lose it back to Bret. That's '94. Bret loses it to Bob Backlund temporarily. Then Diesel wins it back, loses it back to Bret. Then we get into Shawn's reign that we're at here. I think Steve Austin was the last one to hold it in just '98. So let's see. Shawn would drop it to Sid, who would drop it back to Shawn. Shawn would give it up when he, quote, lost his smile, unquote. Bret would get it back, drop it immediately to Sid, who dropped it to The Undertaker, who dropped it back to Bret. Montreal Screwjob puts the belt back on Shawn. He loses it to Steve Austin at WrestleMania '98, and then they debut the Big Eagle after that. So that's the history of the Winged Eagle.
Nice.
My second favorite championship of all time.
I feel as though you could also,
No, I can't do anything. Stop giving me so much credit.
I feel as though you could do like a Crash Course styled wrestling history thing.
imagine
So-
a whole movie where The Rock is in your house.
Why The Rock?
I don't know,
Why
because I
not
think The
The
Rock would be the funniest.
Not Kane or The Undertaker or
All of
Well,
the
yeah,
above.
that would be
Bray
the most
Wyatt.
serious, but The Rock would be the
Mankind.
funniest.
Just The Rock.
All of the above.
I'm gonna lay the smack down on you.
So, what did you get? That is still in my top 5 matches of all time. I don't
It was a
necessarily have a
good
specific
match.
order, but it would definitely still be in my top 5. One of my all-time favorites. Part of Shawn's great championship tour of '96. Probably the best match Kevin Nash ever had.
It was definitely a good match.
And of course, a wacky ending with Mad Dog for Shawn's leg, but
Yeah.
it doesn't really, for one thing,
It didn't
it
ruin.
fit in the context of the match. It was
Yeah.
an Olds Bar match. Diesel's the big bully. Of course, he'd do something like that, and it doesn't take away from the rest of the match. It's not something that detracts from it, and it kind of plays into it. So I'm totally fine with it. You can have a finish like that could totally screw a match up. In this case, it doesn't, though. It doesn't take away from it at all, really.
Uh huh.
All right, now we're going from the WWF in April of 1996 to WCW in June of 1996. As I say, we're right in the middle, or actually toward the end of May, so I thought we'd split the difference to check these both out. At the time, this was one of my 5 favorite matches of all time that we're going to watch now. It's probably a little further down the list now, but still one of my top 10 matches. This is, I believe, the in-ring debut for Rey Mysterio Jr. in WCW.
Ooh.
He had, of course, worked extensively in Mexico and Japan, and he had been in ECW in the States, and then he'd come to WCW, and he was making his debut against another one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, Dean Malenko, squaring off for, I believe, the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Dean Malenko, considered the man of 1,000 holds, sort of the template for my fantasy wrestler of the franchise. He's a guy who can kind of do it all. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you guys know all about Rey. I mean, Rey was a lot smaller back then. I mean, his height hasn't changed, but he didn't have as much muscle as he has now, and he was more of a high flyer before some of the injuries took their toll. But still a fantastic wrestler, and this is still, like I say, one of my top 10 matches of all time, if not still top 5.
Alright.
Again, WCW, like the WWF at the time, was a company in transition, born out of the ashes of Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA. Ted Turner bought them in 1988, and for a while they were sort of like the hardcore wrestling alternative to the showier WWF. But they would do their fair share of trying to mimic the WWF's over-the-top style, to the point of even bringing in, like I say, Hulk Hogan and his cronies, Brutus Beefcake, Hacksaw Duggan, etc. in 1994, and that's sort of when I started shifting away from the company a bit. I mean, I still watched them. I always watched whatever wrestling was available to me, but I just didn't like what they were presenting as much. But with the launch of Nitro in 1995, they started really filling out their roster with a real varied class of workers. They were bringing in more international wrestlers and independent guys, and like we've name checked now, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Rey Mysterio Jr., the luchadors like Psychosis and Juventud Guerrera, of course Eddie Guerrero. So you really had a great variety of wrestling available, from really good workers to really big personalities to brawlers to all sorts.
Little bit of everything.
You had a real variety show in WCW, and it would become even more so as we go through the Monday Night War era. But this is sort of the genesis of it. And again, this is actually after Scott Hall and Kevin Nash had made the jump to WCW and started what would become the NWO. And on this show, they'd have a confrontation with Eric Bischoff, who was in the real life vice president for WCW and the on-camera leader of WCW. And he was supposed to accept their challenge for a match at the pay-per-view that followed this and tell them who their opponents would be. And he was like, "I can't do it." And then Kevin would kick him in the gut and powerbomb Eric Bischoff through the stage.
Of course. Which
was another big spot for the time. And of course, Hulk Hogan would turn heel at the next pay-per-view and join the NWO, and it would kick off WCW's dominance for the next year and a half, and really ignite the last great wrestling boom that would lead into the WWF Attitude Era, and would come to an end once WCW and ECW went out of business and Stone Cold turned heel. And I believe we've talked about all that before, but
quite possibly.
Like I said, this is pretty much peak era for me here. I think WCW would get a little bit better as they moved on, but they would also have things that weren't as good, like wrestlers not working as hard in the ring and not showing up, and really incoherent storylines, and just different things. But this is a masterpiece, this match right here. So we're going to take a look at it, and we'd like you to watch along with us if you'd like to. You may have a VHS of it, as I still do. You may have a DVD of it. It might be on the Rey Mysterio DVD. I'm not sure. I do have the Rey Mysterio DVD, or at least one of them. There may be multiples, but we're watching this on Peacock as well, which has a really shitty user interface. I hate that the WWE Network doesn't exist anymore, because it was so much better than what we've got now. I'm glad we still have this repository for all this great content, but fuck, I wish it was easier to use. You got to go to WWE, then go all the way down to WCW, series and specials. We had to go to View All. You have to, click back to the left, go down to Great American Bash. It's listed as season 7.
Wow.
Which are not seasons, they just had one a year. From 88, 89. Actually, the Great American Bash was actually a tour. And it started before the advent of pay-per-view, so it was the big summer tour. And the War Games was generally the big feature of it, but they would do it in multiple cities. And they would continue with the Great American Bash tours. In fact, that match I referenced earlier between Sting and Nikita Koloff, that was the Great American Bash tour that came through Myrtle Beach, South Carolina at the time.
Nice.
But then in 88, I think, was the first Bash on pay-per-view. And they did 88, 89, 90, 91, 92. They didn't do it in 93, 94. They came back in 95, and then this is the second year back. And it actually continued as a WWF pay-per-view for several years after WWF bought WCW.
Nice.
But this is still the glory days of WCW. And like I said, I believe it is Rey Mysterio's in-ring debut for WCW. Maybe he'd been on a house show or something at the time, but I don't think he'd been on TV again. So if you're watching all of this on Peacock, It is 45 minutes exactly into the show. We've got it paused.
That's satisfying.
And just like with the other one, we're going to give you a countdown, 3, 2, 1, and we'll all play on play. Sound good?
Yep.
All right, so Rey Mysterio versus Dean Malenko for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship in 3, 2, 1, play. And I have the volume up.
That's
Sorry about
okay.
that. A little bit of Ray's old WCW music. Hopefully it's not enough to get a copyright strike when I upload this to YouTube.
I like the lights and the curtains.
Those are lights.
Yep, and those are curtains. And here comes Rey Mysterio Jr. making his debut for WCW. He was called Rey Mysterio Jr. because the original Rey Mysterio was his uncle, not his father. But he took his ring persona. It wasn't his initial ring persona. He kind of had to earn it, but then he would eventually become Rey Mysterio Jr. And of course, once he started wrestling for the WWF, they dropped the Jr. because apparently Vince McMahon doesn't like juniors.
Interesting. But forget the vest situation that Shawn Michaels had going on. I like this one.
Yeah, Ray's always been stylish. I think
Very
Ray's outfits.
colorful.
I think Ray's outfits are a little more hit and miss, but when they hit, they hit. He's decked out in pink this time. You see, he's much smaller than you see him even nowadays. See, he doesn't have anywhere near the muscle mass that he does now.
I haven't really seen him that much, honestly.
He is a small.
That I can.
He's I don't know what his shoot height is. I think it's about 5'5".
Nice.
He's in that area, and again, there's conflicting reports, but I'm pretty sure he's shorter than I am, and I'm 5'8.5" to 5'9".
Wait, did you say 5'5"?
Yeah.
That's only an inch taller than me.
Yeah, he's very short for a professional wrestler.
Yeah, like I said, you're short.
And here's his opponent, Dean Malenko, who's not very tall himself. He's probably around my height as well. This is the era where, the smaller wrestlers started to get more mainstream play in the United States.
Yeah.
And Dean's sporting the Cruiserweight Championship. I see what's here in the fans at the moment.
Yeah.
You saw Dean has the Cruiserweight Championship. Cruiserweight is just another word. I mean, in boxing, it might have a specific weight range or maybe in amateur wrestling or not, but for professional wrestling, it's just another word for light heavyweight or junior heavyweight, whatever you might want to call it.
He looks like a dad.
He may well be.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
His real name is Dean Simon, and his dad was a professional wrestler. He wrestled as a gimmick Russian Boris Malenko, and that's why Dean used Malenko. You see, he's got the 1,000 on the back because he's the man of 1,000 holds.
Nice.
Which I always thought was a really cool gimmick. I like a wrestler who can kind of get in there and just do a bit of everything.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, he's got the question marks on his. He's got the question marks on his gear because, the Mysterio concept.
Yeah.
He's Rey Mysterio.
Definitely.
I guess those are question marks.
Yeah, I think so.
They don't look as much like it now as they did a minute ago. But he definitely would sport the question marks sometimes because of the Mysterio personality.
Ooh, that flip.
I like the pink.
Yes.
It stands out. I mean, it makes him distinct.
Definitely does. Like, it's very unique. Everything's like the darker tones and blue and red and white and whatnot, and then just pink.
I'm not a big fan of. I don't mind the blue ring mat the WCW has, but I'm not a big fan of the big WCW logo in the middle and sort of crosshair design, double nip up.
Nice.
This is the chance for a little reset, get the applause from the crowd, get back to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold your hands
Drop
up.
toe hold.
He looks ready to do a push-up.
I like the guy with the tuxedo t-shirt in the crowd.
Classic.
Next to him,
I like
somebody
the
sporting an Emmitt Smith Dallas Cowboys jersey, but the throwback Cowboys jersey that broke out for the NFL's 50th anniversary season with the big stars on the shoulders. I was never a big fan of that.
Nice.
I like the ref's little bow tie there.
What is...
Yeah, that's the WCW referee look.
What's happening with the ref's hair?
The mullet, baby.
I mean, yeah, but...
I don't know what to tell you.
That's like a bad mullet. I was looking at mullets earlier.
Is
It
it?
actually looked really nice.
To be fair, is there such a thing as a good mullet?
Yes.
But I don't know, he's got some tight lines on the top there.
Yeah.
It looks like he just got it shaped up.
I'm not digging his mullet style.
Arm drag.
I think a lot of the mullets that I've
Ray calling to the
seen
crowd.
more recently, they're a little bit longer up top. Like they're still, of course, the
mullet have you seen
mullet style.
recently?
Clearly, we are on two different sides of TikTok. Yeah, just there's a whole section of Gen Z who's like really obsessed with frogs and mullets.
Why is anyone using a mullet nowadays?
They can look nice. Me and one of my other friends was just sharing a Facebook post earlier.
Did you ever have a mullet?
I did not.
I'm shocked. You had the hair to do it, and you didn't do it.
Why would I want to?
You were in that era.
No. Yeah, man, that's...
Look, everything looks good
or a hockey
in the
player.
time.
See, this is supposed to. I said, yeah, y'all can't see it. It's just somebody enjoying mullets.
Half of those
The
aren't
cartoons.
mullets.
Look at the bridge.
They don't look it very much in those pictures,
those
but
don't
those
even look
are
like mullets.
a little mullets.
Maybe
Maybe like
like
80s hair
recently.
bands, maybe, but not a mullet. Not a mullet amongst them.
Like I said, that's why I said the current mullets are a little longer.
They're not mullets.
I mean,
They're different hairstyle altogether.
Yeah, they're just long hair.
they're not.
Sort of feathered a bit, but
What, he
goes out,
moved?
Zero goes back
Who would
in.
have guessed?
Who could have seen that
I'm just gonna
coming?
leave.
These two had a series of matches in '96, both on pay-per-view and on Nitro. Outstanding matches.
Nice. He looks so young.
I think this probably is in the 4-star range in the newsletters. I'd probably give it 4 1/4, maybe even bump it up to 4
Hold on, hands again.
I love this match.
How old is?
Ray?
Yeah.
At this point, or
Yeah.
or at the time
At
of
this
recording?
point.
I don't know. Because Ray started wrestling when he was 14,
God damn.
and I know he and Jericho hung out in Japan when he was like 18, and that would have been like 94, 95. So I'm gonna say he's
Like my age.
in his 20s.
Like damn.
That's my best guess.
Early 20s.
I could be definitely early 20s. He's no
Yeah.
more than 25 here.
But probably younger. He looks young, that's why I'm asking. Like I said, the other dude, he looks like a dad, like a 30s, 40s dad.
Yeah, Dean would have been around a bit because I mean he wrestled on WWE pay-per-view when they had a tag team tournament, like an international tag team tournament in like '90. So I mean he's definitely been around the business for a while. Of course, like I say, Ray has too. He just started very young.
Yeah. Definitely did. Let's see. Couldn't this. Rey Mysterio,
He would have been
born.
21.
Okay, cool.
He was born December 11th, 1974, and this was in
Nice.
June, so he wouldn't have had his birthday yet.
Nice.
So 21.
Nice. Just old enough to
I was
drink.
16, fixing to turn 17.
Nice.
Nice.
And watching this, I'm currently 20.
Did
Don't-
you ever own a bow tie?
No. Never had a bow tie, never had a mullet.
He's
Did you ever
getting
have a
ready to turn
necktie?
16.
I do own neckties, yes.
Guys. So at the time of you watching, at the time of this match happening, Ray was about 21. At the time of you seeing it, you were about 16. At the time of me
I
and
was
Dylan,
16.
you,
I was
yeah,
almost
you were
17.
16.
Hey,
Almost
there's
17.
the guardrails you like so much, Dylan.
Well,
Those don't look as nice.
little more silver.
They're exactly the same.
No, the collar is different.
I think it might be
Maybe
a
the
lighting
lighting is
or film
different.
thing.
No, the
yeah.
collar is different.
They're exactly the same.
They're like golden.
They probably even
gold
belong to the
bronze.
buildings too. So I mean,
Yeah.
They're like
But,
gold bronze on the other.
But at
You're out
the
of your
time of
mind.
watching this, I'm 20 and Dylan's almost 16. Nice little line.
Wow,
of
I just
ages
reveal my
there.
age on the internet like that. Like, gosh.
Wow, I think it was already available somewhere.
on all this guy with the game night fan sites.
You know, I once Googled myself, not that long ago, this was just like a couple weeks ago, I Googled myself. There was so much information about myself, and I just sat there like, why could somebody get all this information with just one simple
I'm
Google
Googling
search?
myself.
It
Don't
was
Google yourself.
rather disturbing.
Look, there's a fan in a Washington football team shirt and a fan in a Dallas Cowboy jersey. They're not. Somebody better. It's a good thing there's some fans in between them.
Like,
That was a bad joke. I'll just move on.
Yeah, I'm seeing my YouTube.
oh,
Armbar by
thank you.
Malenko.
And
I
then
got
Gabba Gabba.
you. Reasonable.
Oh,
Give me the wiki page
I
for the
think-
third episode.
Nice. I think you were on the third episode. You were that guest.
Third episode of season 2.
Oh, of season 2. But no, when I Googled myself, I actually meant name, not YouTube. So, might get different results depending on what I search, you know.
Well, Google
Typing
my
in
name,
here,
it's
he's
boring.
doing a move thing that involves an arm. That's how you commentate wrestling, right?
It's a move that involves arm, probably like an arm bar or
It's
something.
Yes, it
Something.
was an armbar.
It's something and it's probably painful.
Drop kick to the arm as it wrapped around the top rope.
That looked really painful.
WCW didn't use ropes; they actually used cable
Uh-huh.
with like electrical tape or some kind of tape wrapped around it, whereas WWF uses actual rope with tape wrapped around.
Which hurts more?
Nice.
I've never had any involvement with either one, so I would
I-
guess the cable, but I'm not sure.
That could break an arm.
A lot of this could break something.
I mean, facts. But I mean, the Rey was just out over the thing, and then, yeah.
Oh, look at that hammerlock into a belly.
A lot of this has
on the
broken
arm.
something.
Yeah. And if it hasn't broken it, it's at least done quite some damage.
Just classic wrestling. Dean Malenko targeting a body part, working it over. Just, it makes sense. Gives Rey something to sell and someplace to come back from. It's just good
I feel like
wrestling,
he's just
man.
throwing Rey around right now.
We got drinks and food.
Where did that come from?
I
There are
don't-
people in the back with drinks and food.
Oh.
Oh.
It wasn't as distracting as the other
Yeah, I was actually
match.
watching the match.
Look, I like
put this on
looking
for
at
y'all
the
to watch the
background.
crowd.
The
Look,
background's interesting.
isn't it in
Is it
something
more
you're
than
in
what's
the
going on in the
crowd?
ring? I've been to a few wrestling shows, yeah.
Yeah, I look.
Yeah.
I've seen holds plenty of times, but that was people walking across with drinks and food.
Yes, I'm with Carolina Panthers jersey.
Hell yeah.
This would have been the Panthers. They would have been getting ready to start their second season.
Nice. Damn.
Oh,
that
look at
always
that.
makes me forget.
Belly to belly suplex with the arm and a hammerlock. What a move. You don't
How
almost never
recent.
see that.
I mean, I don't watch a whole lot of
Dean
wrestling, so I almost
Dean
never see
Malenko would
any
be
of
number
this.
one in the PWI 500 the following year.
Nice. What's on his?
It says 1,000.
Okay.
He's the
Yeah.
man of 1,000.
I know you said
Yeah,
something.
his
It just
ass is
I know
it
you
looks
said that. I just
weird.
wanted you to say it again. And the fun is sort of icy because another one was thinking
Uh-huh.
this was the Iceman because he had like that calm, cool persona.
Interesting.
Look, his ass is just in 1,000. In 1,000, I can speak. His ass is a 1,000.
It makes. That's not. It's something 1,000.
It's,
1,000
it's
out of
rating
Oh, they're
is
holding
1,000.
hands.
Yeah, its ranking is 1,000 out of 10.
Just like I'm trying to hurt you, but I still love you. I like the 5 o'clock shadow Dean's sporting too.
Yeah.
Good look.
Why is
I
that
think
5
it
o'clock shadow?
contributes to
I guess
the dad
because like
vibe.
if you shave at 6 o'clock in the morning or whatever, by 5 o'clock it's grown back to that level. I think that's the concept.
Well, that's a really big shadow at 5 o'clock.
No, I think my explanation is more correct.
And probably, but
Pretty
Um,
sure.
I mean, Google can help us.
'Cause, I mean, there wouldn't be a specific shadow, any specific. You get a better shadow at like noon when the sun's right above you, depending on where the thing that creating the shadow is positioned. I mean,
You're just talking about like lighting and times. Can we
not
just
really. I was trying to
acknowledge?
talk about wrestling.
Okay, but right now this is where the conversation was. Can we just acknowledge golden hour and how pretty it is?
I have a Rey Mysterio Jr.
what's
mask.
golden hour?
It's like in the evening time.
Isn't that like
ring
a
used
sale at the
mask.
bar?
I thought you were gonna go.
Happy hour.
I thought you were gonna go something else that rhymed with golden hour. And
No.
I was like, that's not appropriate for the podcast.
But no, it's like in
Oh,
the
look at the
evening the
surfboard.
sun gets to just the right point and everything's like lit up orange. Let's see, I was trying to find etymology of this for y'all. Razor Company, 1930s, coined the phrase 5 o'clock shadow, wanted to sell more razors. The idea was that men started growing unsightly and ugly afternoon beard.
Yeah, because you shave early in the day, and
Yeah.
then as the day progresses, it starts to grow.
And a
back
company
in.
created that to try to convince you that you needed to
It's
buy
just a
more
marketing hook,
razors.
Dylan.
It really
Everything is
is.
a marketing hook.
Yeah,
My book was
capitalism.
probably a marketing hook.
Is that black triangle on Ray's trunk's a marketing hook?
Yes.
I was probably burned to sell more balls or something.
Like,
I was born to
I
sell
was
more
born to
products.
sell more bottles. They are quite. It's like they're question marks, but they don't have the
they don't have the dots.
dot at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's big.
How bizarre.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
Wow, you didn't continue the How Bizarre thing. And
Yeah,
you're
no.
the one actually on TikTok.
I mean, I know, but JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Damn, Dean's got a nasty scrape on his shin there.
Nice to know.
Big squid.
He looks very sweaty.
Well, I mean,
I would expect
it's
him
a lot
to
of
be, yes.
physical activity.
Yes,
Under
all the
hot
activity
lights.
and the lighting and whatnot. Yes, I would
in
expect
the middle
him
of the
to
summer.
Be.
You try and
I
go to
just,
that
I just want to
sweat.
point out that he looks very sweaty, but to the point that it looks
I mean,
like
technically-
he's covered in oil.
He might be. I mean,
Very
wrestlers
well.
do sometimes put a little baby oil or something on so they shine when they come out, or just some water,
Nice.
wet the hair.
Oil.
Every time somebody looks like they've got oil on them or something, I just think about the fact of Crane being covered in Vaseline.
Okay.
for an album cover.
So there's some interesting designs on Rey's tights there.
Yes, we have acknowledged that.
Not really even sure what those are supposed to be. Just, I mean, it's sort of a triangle and sort of an oval, but
stuff. Oval.
oh well,
I was getting
I know it's more
diamond.
angled. It's closer to a diamond.
Looks like
I
a
suppose.
A rhombus.
Looks like Rey's wearing kick pads. He might,
your
I
phone
think Rey might have
collapsed.
some lifts in his boots to make him a little taller.
5'5", just a bit too small.
Yeah,
The
well, I mean,
WCW thing is just saying, aim for this part of the ring.
Right.
you know, wrestling, especially mainstream North American wrestling, has long been the land of the giants.
Yes.
Even guys like Shawn and Brett are considered kind of small,
Nice.
or were.
Yeah.
Butterfly suplex.
Not one way around.
David Taylor did a
I
butterfly
said
suplex where he would actually keep the arms locked and actually roll over into a pin. I always really liked that.
Ray, you need to make the comeback.
Facts.
Okay, so like kick
like I
him
said,
in
a
the
lot of
shin.
mat work, a lot of work in a body part, but I like this when it's done well. This is good stuff.
Grab his face.
It's not, you know, super spectacular or
What if I distract him a little bit?
Right? Like, just grab his face.
Oh, you meant like that? I meant
No, just grab the face and throw him off. Like, what are you doing? What are we selling here?
West his face.
yeah, we're holding hands earlier.
West his 5 o'clock shadow.
Just appreciate the 5 o'clock shadow. Like, don't listen. You don't need to buy more razors.
It's 5
You look
o'clock
beautiful the way you are.
You're beautiful, just the way you are.
What just happened there?
Oh, Ray jumped.
Slamming his arm over his shoulder and Ray's leaping up to sell it more.
Nice.
These guys are pros, man. Two of the best to ever do it.
Nice.
Ray with his hand does look like he has counts like 1, 1, 2, 2.
Who counts 1, 1, 2,
I don't
2?
know.
I don't know. It looked like he was trying to count.
I guess maybe if you
It's
try and
done
count
for,
the
like, math.
beat or something of some sort. Like,
They're doing, like,
if he's
math
sitting
or
there like, I've got to do something, let me time it. You know? Or like, we're going
Some
to
motion
change
going.
what we're doing.
Dean's momentum carries him out. I bet Ray's going to do a
Camera
dive
people.
here. I bet he's going to do a dive. Oh, no. He's selling in the ring.
Now he's
Oh,
going
wait,
to lean over so everyone can see his
forearm.
butt.
Forearm. It's not a battle royal.
Ooh.
And drop kick. Now here
Nice.
comes the dive. Nope. Another kick. Here comes the dive.
That was a cool kick though.
Something's gonna
Here
do
we go.
something. Ooh.
There we go. A little step up from what we saw Shawn do in the last match. This is what I'm saying. We were starting to get more spectacular sort of action in the ring in WCW and WWF, which was, you know, my only real frame of reference. I didn't get to see a lot of independent wrestling, or certainly no international wrestling. Mm-hmm. Even though there was still a pretty strong independent scene at the time, and ECW was sort of like a mid-major.
Nice.
Take off his boots.
Didn't get to see ECW either, though.
Okay, he'll be very uncomfortable walking around without boots.
Hurricane, nope, drop kick.
Wait.
A lot of times Ray would
Face.
do a springboard Hurricane Rana.
Uh-huh.
That's a springboard drop kick because he sprung himself up onto the ropes and then leapt off.
Nice.
Yeah, I know about
Power
half his wrestling
bomb.
moves.
Nope. Oh, we saw that same move in the other match. Where Shawn reversed the power bomb.
Nice
Combinations Ray with the roll.
I don't know who's reversing who at this point.
Right.
Who's reversing who? Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun.
Well, it sounds
Who's
like a
reversing
segment of
who?
something.
Hurricane Rana.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Nice.
The
I
way
got
he
your
just
legs.
like landed and
Take
rolled
off his
and whatnot.
boots.
What is your obsession with seeing somebody bootless?
Who knows?
I need the feet.
I think it'd be funny if someone lost the boots.
Not the feet.
Need the feet.
No.
Look, you need the feet to defeat. Need defeat.
Shoulder block. Ray going up top. Nope. Dean's gonna catch him. Oh, is he gonna do the top rope gut buster? That was one of Dean's moves. I was. Yep.
Let me climb on your back.
Ray's gonna set him up for a top rope Hurricane Rana.
It's like he just sat there like, come on, buddy, get up on my
He got
shoulders.
indistinct. Thank you, subtitles. Saying it's indistinct.
Oh, and even the subtitles are like, we have no idea what's going on either.
Irish whip off the ropes. Dean reverses. Tilt-a-whirl. No, Rey Mysterio with the cover.
That's a
1.
beautiful
2.
move.
That was a really nice. Well, Dean was setting him up for like a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker or a tilt-a-whirl suplex, but Ray countered into
Tiltable sounds like an amusement park ride. Get on the Tiltable!
Yeah,
I think that is.
Yeah, I think so too.
It is?
Yeah. Oh, powerbomb. Feet on
What's
the
the
ropes.
last thing move? And
2,
amusement park
3.
ride.
Dean Malenko still champion.
Damn.
With a little bit of an underhanded pin. Putting his feet on the ropes for extra leverage.
Dang it. I was hoping Ray won.
Road won the title later this year.
Okay.
It's a pretty good
this year? In
Well, the year that
2021?
we're watching.
Wow.
It took him that
Actually,
long.
Ray and his son Dominic just won the WWF Tag Team titles.
I was gonna ask about his son because I thought he had a son who did wrestling stuff.
Yes.
The big WCW on the side plate is a little garish to me, but the center plate's nice looking. Speaking of the belt, he did toss it down.
Interesting.
Laser takes and leaves.
Like, it's like, well, damn, if you're just gonna toss it around like you did to me.
Wee. Yay. Let's go for a ride. That's something.
Yeah.
I guess that's actually a pin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely
Absolutely
a
a
pin.
pin. I mean,
It just seems
the
like
feet on the
how
ropes
odd
were
pin.
illegal, but
Nice to
I
know.
suppose it gives you extra leverage.
Nice to know.
Well, all right then. Well, I want to thank y'all for taking a look at 2 of my all-time favorite matches. I've got some more wrestling content coming up in August, which is going to be another anniversary of one of my favorite wrestling events, but we'll talk more about that as we get to it. June's schedule is a little up in the air. I mean, we'll be back every Sunday, but exactly what we're doing, I don't really have a preview at this point.
It's a mystery.
To us, even at this point.
It's a
Yeah.
Mysterio.
But no matter what we present, I hope you will come back when the conversation continues. But until then, I will continue to be Maddie.
Lexi.
Dylan.
And this is LexiCon concluded.
Bye.